negative. That's true. I think we because you can see the pieces. Yes.
We're all escaping.
It's okay.
Well, just to share with you this first case, it's not a complicated case, but it was a very specific case of work that were made in the case of glaucoma. This is a case of a 65-year-old female with glaucoma history treated by drugs, and we have the follow-up of this patient. She has been referred for a center for visual field and RNFL and GCC, and you can see this kind of images with RNFL on both eyes, with a thinning of the RNFL in temporal for both eyes, and it was this kind of cases that we have made our approach of the glaucoma, because when we have made OCT angiography, when seen on both eyes, this dramatic reduction of vascularization around this. And so making this, and with the other cases, it was for us evidence that we have to follow up this patient on this way. And due to this new technology, it was a very new point, a new way of thinking the glaucoma, and probably go back to a vascular analysis of glaucoma, and not only neuropathy of the optic disc. And so when you see all the information, you see that everything is correlated, and it's not always the same correlation. Few patients were reduction of vascularization in one part, and not the visual field is yet disturbed. Perhaps we have GCC disturbed and not visual field, and so it's just the first step. I just want to show you this main point and this main case that I've decided us to screen every patient referred to us for glaucoma.
Michelle, can I ask, what is the correlation between these flow defects and nerve fiber layer loss?
This is a key point. In fact, when we get measurement of the RNFL, we get the thickness of this layer of RNFL. We're thinking that it was mainly fibers. But in fact, we have a mix of fibers and vessels. And at this time, we are not able to separate and to visualize as you can see on this. What are the fibers? This is my question. Every day, we can see the vessels, but what are the fibers? It's very difficult. And so probably this layer is mainly composed of vessels. And the fibers are traveling through, but they are very small comparing to this. And so this is the reason why I've shown you the adaptive optic systems, because we have to differentiate in this same layer the fiber and the vessels. And probably when we see this kind of pictures with a thinning of the RNFL, it's mainly a thinning of the vessels. And probably in the early stage of the thinning, the fibers are still working. We don't know.
Yeah. It cannot be that you have an artifact of vessels that appear larger than what they actually are, because of when you have a small vessel, you can actually get
probably. But if we can see fibers, probably we can see them in few parts of the images, or if we can see all these vessels. It's a very, very dense network, and probably the fibers can be upside or downwards. I don't know. We have to go back to histopathology probably now.
very interesting. I think what would be interesting as well would be to see if the nerve fiber layer loss at the
vessel loss came first. I think if you have a large cohort and you start scanning early glaucoma, this could be potentially a tool to detect early RFNL loss before it actually.
We have to find a tool only to get measurements of the fibers.
Michelle, what's the visual acuity of this patient? Visual acuity?
Visual acuity was quite good.
Quite good?
Yeah.
Because I noticed that there's a central scotoma on the visual field.
Yeah, but in terms of visual acuity, it was perhaps 6 to 10.
Okay. Yeah. Because right now we have this imaging technology, and we can just realize the reason of the decreased visual acuity because we saw the macular papillary bundle defect on both eyes, and that could cause the central scotoma. Traditionally, maybe doctors, at least in my hospital, always think that the visual acuity just got decreased at late stage of glaucoma. But actually, for some glaucoma, especially for normal patient glaucoma, they can get visual acuity decrease in an early stage because of this macular papillary bundle defect. So that's the advantage of this technique, to show this macular papillary bundle defect, and also you have the evidence of the capillary loss in that area, and that could explain the problem of visual acuity at early stage.
Yeah, and probably we can help with microperimetry.
Right.
Because we can combine decrease of function and the localization of the defect.
Exactly.
Probably we will combine it.
Right.
Michael, also, I know that in glaucoma, a lot of times the lamina grammosa actually bows downwards. So in your experience, is the angio view able to segment and go into the deeper layers? Or does that turn up as like an artifact in a lot of cases?
Around the disc, we have an artifact with the big vessels, so it's difficult. But we can go, but it's not so relevant.
Have you tried also, if a patient with a little bit of tilted disc, you get an easy image, because it's a different plane and with the nasal and the tilted area, you actually are able to get the same even image.
Yeah, so the tilt of the disc is not a problem for the acquisition. So the main problem is the fixation and the microsecond. When you have a patient who not fixate the machine,
I think for tilted disc, because we sometimes just do the disc as a cover to look at it as well, and we have lots of time buyers in Singapore. Probably seems okay, but it seems to affect the problem.
Hi, I think there's one more question, sir. One more question here. So how about the ganglion cell layer?
Sorry?
Ganglion cell layer.
Ganglion cell layer?
Yeah.
What was the question?
Was it affected at all in that nerve fiber layer thinning?
We have not yet get measurements around the disc because the ganglion cell layers is very under the. So we probably have no ganglion cell around the disc. So we compare it with the ganglion cell around the fovea, but not in this part.
But not
because the number of ganglion cells is reducing when you go out of the zone of the foveolar